Now, in this lecture, we discuss today the static properties of nuclei, which includes size of the nuclei, mass and binding energy of the nuclei, angular momentum, magnetic dipole moment, electric dipole and quadrupole moments, and parity and symmetry. First of all, we discuss this size of the nuclei. Now, according to large angle scattering of Rutherford, because when the alpha particles scattered from the nucleus, the large angle scattering is important because it predicts that the whole positive charges present in the atom, they concentrate at a very small volume at the center of the atom. Now, the nuclei has a well-defined size in contrast to the electronic cell structure of the atoms. In atoms, it is found that this is the nucleus, the electrons are evolving around the nucleus in certain cells. So, the electronic cell structure predicts that as we go away from the center, the probability of finding the electron gradually decreases and goes to 0. Now, although the nucleus has a definite size, but the size is not too much well defined. Now, the experiments tells that the size of the nuclei is proportional to the mass number A. Now, for the time being, if we consider that the nuclei has a spherical size, it's a sphere. Although not always, because there are certain nuclei which has a very large quadrupole moments, and these quadrupole moments predicts that the deviation from the spherical symmetry. Now, if the nuclei instead of a sphere is a ellipsoidal revolution, then in that case it may be like that, or it may be like this. In this case, it is called the prolate distribution, and the oblate. In case of prolate, it has a positive quadrupole moment, and in case of oblate, it has a negative quadrupole moment. So, quadrupole moment tells us the deviation from the spherical symmetry. Now, for the time being, we consider that the nuclei is spherical in shape. Now, if we consider the nuclei, a particular nuclei whose radius is r, capital R is the radius of that particular nucleus, and whose mass number is A, then the volume of this sphere, volume V, that is equal to 4/3 pi r cube. And according to experiments, that volume is proportional to the mass number A. Therefore, this 4/3 pi r cube, that is proportional to A. Or one can write that is r cube is proportional to A, or r is proportional to A to the power 1/3. Okay? Now, therefore, it is written that r is equal to r0 a to the power 1/3. Where Rgo is a parameter whose value is 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 13 centimeter. This value of R0, it fits the experimental database. The value of R0, that is equal to 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 13 centimeter, fits the experimental data based. Now there are several methods of measuring the nuclear radius, and these are, say, high energy electron scattering. There are several methods. For the nuclear radius. The first one is high energy electron scattering. High energy electron scattering. Number 2, high energy or fast neutron scattering by nuclei. Third one, nuclear reaction initiated by protons or alpha particles. Fourth one, alpha decay lifetimes. Alpha decay lifetimes. Fifth one, maximum energy of some beta rays. Maximum energy of some beta rays. These are the several methods for finding the or measuring the nuclear radius. Now, next we discuss the mass and binding energy of the nuclei. Now, about 99.98% mass of an atom comes from its nuclei. That is, the nuclei is the, or nucleus is the heaviest part of the atom, as if the whole mass of the atom is concentrated at the center of the atom, which is the nucleus. So, the mass and binding energy, about 99.98% mass of the atom comes from the nucleus. Now, but in most of the cases, the nuclear binding energies are calculated by using the atomic masses rather than the nuclear masses. Now, what is nuclear binding energy? When a appropriate number of protons and neutrons form a nucleus, then some energy is released in that process, that is called the binding energy of the nucleus. So, if there are z number of protons and say a minus z number of neutrons combined together to form a particular nucleus, then its binding energy will be equal to mass of the z number of proton plus a minus z number of the mass of the neutron minus the mass of the nucleus. So this is the binding energy formula of the nucleus, where Z is the number of protons and A minus Z, this is the number of neutrons in the nucleus. Now, as the mass of the electrons or the binding energy of the electrons are very small compared to the mass of the proton and the neutron or the binding energy of the nucleus, so in that cases, the binding energy can be written in terms of the mass of the particular atoms, because in that cases, if we write this equation in this fashion, that binding energy is here instead of mass of the proton, if we consider the mass of the hydrogen atom, MH, this is the mass of the neutron represented by capital M here. Now, and here capital M. Here the capital M represents the atomic masses. Now see here in this equation, in both the here the rest mass of the electrons cancel. Here z number of electrons are there in the hydrogen atom, z number of electrons are there in this particular atom. So the electronic rest masses will cancel here, and as the binding energy of the electrons are much small or smaller compared to the nuclear binding energy, because the atomic binding energy comes in the electron volt order and nuclear binding energy comes in the million electron volt order. So this equation generally used in calculation of nuclear binding energy rather than the earlier equation, which is expressed in terms of the mass of the proton or the mass of the particular nucleus. So therefore, this equation is used to calculate the binding energy of the nucleus, and which is the energy released, as we know that when a particular number of protons and neutrons form a particular nucleus. Now the next we discuss the angular momentum. Now the question is whether the protons and neutrons are at rest in the nucleus or not. The question is in the negative because these protons and neutrons are in incessant motion or they move in certain orbits about the center of mass of the nucleus. So protons and neutrons are in motion about the center of mass of the nucleus, and the protons and neutrons have some intrinsic spin quantum number s. The protons and neutron have intrinsic spin quantum number is equal to half. They are protons and neutrons both are spin half particles. Therefore, the resulting total angular momentum, of this nuclei will be an integral or integer for the nuclei or nucleus with even number of A. If A is even, then you get a total angular momentum, an integer, and if A is odd, then you get half integral. Now for even A nucleus, the total angular momentum is an integral, and for odd A it is half integral. And the square of the angular momentum, as you know, that the square of the angular momentum, as in quantum mechanics, you have learned that the square of the angular momentum is given by Tj square, that is equal to J into J plus 1, that is H cross square. J into J plus 1 is the numerical value. And this total quantum angular momentum J is called the spin of the nucleus. Nucleus spin means the total angular momentum J. Now, if the angular momentum vector of the can be measured along a particular direction, which we call the symmetry axis, then such a measurement can give only one of the following values. That means, if we take the projection of this J along a particular preferred direction, which we call the symmetry axis, then we get the values that Tj has to take the values, that is minus J or minus J plus 1 in this way up to j. That means 2j plus one number of values. Now, if we consider the z axis as the symmetry axis, then in that case the z component of this, that is pj z, the z component of say pj, which we write as pj z component, that is equal to mj h cross, and this mj has the values mj has the value that is minus j plus 1, that is total number of projections, that is total projections are j plus 1. Now for even z, even n nuclei, the ground state of say even z, even n nuclei, the total spin in the ground state, total spin in ground state is 0. That means even number of z, even number of n, if any nuclei have, then for that you can write the total angular momentum or spin will be equal to 0 in its ground state. However, not in the excited state. The excited state angular momentum will be determined from the disintegration data or the reaction data. For all the nuclei, there is a scheme which we shall study this in the case of cell model. There is a formula how the nuclear cell structures are filled up. From that one can find. Now suppose that you have oxygen 16 nuclei. If one asks you that what is the total spin of the oxygen 16 nuclei in its ground state, oxygen 16, or say calcium 40. So even z, even number of n, even z, even number of n, then its ground state spins are 0. Therefore, for any even n, even z nuclei, the ground state spin is always 0. So the nuclear spin can be determined, ground state spin for the even z, even n nuclei. One can predict in this way directly that it is 0. But say excited state spin should be determined from the reaction data or say disintegration data. Now the next is magnetic dipole moment. magnetic dipole moment. Now if we consider a current carrying loop of any shape, not necessarily it should be a square or say rectangular shape or say circular. Suppose it is a closed current loop, current is flowing, say I, current is flowing through this, and the S is the area of this loop. Then this current carrying loop behaves as a magnet, it has a magnetic moment. And what will be the magnetic moment? The magnetic moment of this current carrying loop, the magnetic moment of this current carrying loop, that is mu is equal to I into S, current multiplied by its surface area. Even number of terms are there, then N will be multiplied here. Mu will be the N I S. I is current through each term. Now if we consider a particle of charge E, suppose is revolving in a closed path, for the time being we consider it suppose a circular path, a charged particle of charge E moving with a linear velocity v and revolving in a circular orbit of radius r. Then what will be the magnetic moment generated by this? Now what will be the current produced by this loop? Current means the charge flowing through the cross section area per unit time. Now here the current will be equal to frequency of revolution multiplied by the charge. What will be the frequency of revolution here? Here the frequency of revolution that is equal to V by twice pi r. So the current is equivalent current in the circuit, that is equal to multiplied by the charge dV by twice pi r. Then what will be the magnetic moment? Current multiplied by its area. So the magnetic moment generated by this revolving charge mu 1, suppose, that is EV by twice pi r into the area of the. So this that is equal to, you get EV R by 2. This is the magnetic moment. Now this particle is moving. Here it has a mass m, then it has an angular momentum, orbital angular momentum. So that orbital angular momentum of this charged particle, its mass is given by m, then the orbital angular momentum of the particle velocity v, that is suppose say PL, that is equal to mv/r. And you know that the ratio of the magnetic moment to the orbital angular momentum, which is called the gyromagnetic ratio. So the gyromagnetic ratio ratio G, that is equal to mu1 by PL that will be equal to E by twice m. This is the gyromagnetic ratio. Now this relation, that is mu1 by PL, also it holds good for its component, that is its x component, y component, z component also holds good. Now therefore, if we consider the z component, then mu1z, z component of this, that is EH cross by twice m into ml. Because mu1 is equal to E by twice m into PL. PL has the value that is ml into H cross. So mu1 is equal to E by twice m into PL has the value ml into H cross. So EH cross by twice m ml. And this expression yields the correct value of the orbital motion of the protons in a nucleus. And for this expression, this yields the correct result for orbital motion of protons in the nucleus. As you know that the magnetic moment is a nuclear magnetic moment. It is measured in the nuclear magneton, as in the case of atomic physics we know it is measured in the Bohr magneton. So one nuclear magneton, which is given by EH cross by twice mp, here m will be replaced by the mass of the proton. Say one nuclear magneton, one Nm nuclear magneton, it has the value 5.05 into 10 to the power minus 27 joule meter square per over. Now the experimentally the magnetic dipole moments for the electron, protons and neutrons are, for electron 2.79275. Nuclear magneton. And for neutron, it is negative minus 1.9135 nuclear magneton. Now, why neutron has a magnetic moment, although it is uncharged particle, is still mysterious. But the negative sign indicates that, what is the indication of negative sign? The negative sign indicates that the orbital angular momentum and the magnetic moments are in the opposite direction. So negative sign indicates this negative sign of the neutron. The negative sign indicates that the angular momentum and the magnetic moment are in the opposite direction. And the observed magnetic moment of a nucleus, that is the magnetic moment which you observe for a nucleus or you measure, that is the maximum value of the jet component of the magnetic dipole moment, that is mu1 jet. This is the observed magnetic moment of a nucleus. Because whatever we measure, that will be the projection of that observable along the symmetry axis or along the direction of the magnetic field. Because until and unless we apply certain magnetic field from outside, the outside magnetic field and the magnetic field inside, which is generated inside the nucleus, that will not interact. So from the interaction between the outside magnetic field and the magnetic moment of the nucleus, we get the maximum effect, and that is along the symmetry axis, that is along the applied external magnetic field, and that's maximum value is observed. Now the next is electric dipole moment and quadrupole moment. Quadrupole moment is very important because it gives you the deviation from the spherical symmetry. Now first we electric dipole moment. According to electromagnetism, all you have gone through this in your electrodynamics course, that the resultant effect of an distribution of charges and currents, in this case it is nucleus, can be expressed in terms of series of multiple moments. Because when we express that the external interaction energy H, that we get a number of terms. First we get the monopole term, then magnetic moment, then dipole, then quadrupole moments, then octupole moments. A series of multiple moments will observe. But in most of the cases, the first few lower order moments are important. That is monopole, dipole and quadrupole. So in most instances, the lower order moments are important. So in most of the cases, some lower order moments are important. Now this simplification depends on the conditions. Why some lower order multiple moments are important? Because it depends on certain conditions. That is, in case of nuclear physics, the first condition is that the velocity of the nuclear particles, that means the velocity of the protons and neutrons, they are much less compared to the speed of the light. Therefore, the velocity of the velocities of the nuclear particles are much less compared to speed of the light. It is non-relativistic case. Second one, the fractional change of the applied field across the nucleus must be small. The fractional change of the applied field across the nucleus is small. And the third one, the applied field must not be so strong so that it disturbs the original charge current distribution. The applied field must not be so strong as to change appreciably the original charge current So these are the basic assumptions. On the basis of this, we shall calculate the electric dipole and quadrupole moments, lower order multiple moments. Because this is well known to you, because when we calculate the electric field of a charge distribution, what we consider? We consider a test charge. The value of the test charge is very, very small, goes to 0. Why? Suppose I have a 10 coulomb charge and I have to find the electric field at a certain distance. Then why do we not take a 5 coulomb charge to calculate the electric field at a certain distance from this original charge distribution? Because in that case, that test charge 5 coulomb disturb the original charge distribution and we will not get the exact result. So our test charge should be very, very small so that it does not disturb the original charge distribution. Here also the same case. The applied electric field or fields must not be so strong so that it disturbs the original charge distribution and current distribution in the nucleus. Okay, now in the next lecture we shall discuss the quadrupole moments and symmetry and parity.